when you think of what's to come next, you've got anonymous MPs raising complaints. You've got people who are frustrated for this reason or that reason. Governing wears on governments. Why do you want to do this again?
It's interesting that you go back to 2015, right? And the why we did this. Because first of all, there were a lot of people, telling us that we were wrong, that I was doing things the wrong way, that I wasn't, tackling the right things the right way. There was a lot of skepticism about what that was. And it was an opportunity to actually give Canadians a choice that I think was absolutely necessary for the country to say, okay, we've got to double down on fighting climate change and growing the economy at the same time. We got to step up on supporting the most vulnerable. We got to move forward on reconciliation. We got to figure out how we navigate through a much more challenging world that has impacts on us. Those are all things that the Harper government wasn't doing, and those were all the things that drove me to saying, yeah, Canadians need that choice to be able to make. Well, that's sort of the same choice they're going to make in the next election. Choice whether you moving forward on the fight against climate change or whether we just basically throw up our hands and go back to leaning heavily on fossil fuels with the kind of short-term thinking that is going to end up being so costly for Canadians just a few years down the road, not just with the costs of climate impacts and wildfires, but also with the missed opportunities to participate in where the global economy is going. That question of, okay, at this time of backlash against progressive policies of inclusion and diversity, are we going to double down on making sure that everyone gets to participate or play? Or are we going to continue to drive wedges into people and group Canadians into subgroups that are angry at each other? Like all those questions are just as important now, if not even more important, because back in the run-up to 2015, I think everyone got a sense that, okay, we just need to find an alternative to Stephen Harper, and whether it's Mulcair or whether it's Trudeau, the winds were turning in that sense.
Yeah.
This is going to be harder in a lot of levels because it's a time where people are frustrated, but the choice to make a deliberate choice to say, no, we're going to continue and even double down on the things we know are going to get us better, which is more protection of the environment, more inclusion of people, more understanding how you have to build the economy from the bottom up, from the center out, instead of from the top down, which Poilievre is still proposing. Like, this is going to be a much harder election than 2015. It always was going to be.
But set up that choice. So I agree. I want to protect the progress, right? So we...
why you sit
leading
like
into
him?
2015,
Why you cross your legs like he does?
Over 100, but regardless, not all of my colleagues feel that way. And I'm not going to get into the SNC stuff. I'm not going to read Jodi's book, but there was an excerpt in there where she didn't have your cell phone number. I found that kind of astounding. And I don't know if Jagmeet Singh had your cell phone number, but if you were, part of me thinks if he did, and if you were regularly texting, if he felt like he was more attached and involved and connected, maybe he doesn't aggress. I know there's shameless politics at play there regardless, so maybe he does, but maybe he doesn't. Because politics, like
maybe
life,
he doesn't walk away from Saka. You mean? Or maybe he doesn't
maybe not in
campaign
quite
as
the same
hard
way. Maybe not in quite the same way, because maybe he does. I'm not saying maybe, but I'm just saying everything depends on relationships. Like Charlie Angus isn't going to screw me the same way some other NDP members are, because I have a relationship with him. Okay. I'm not going to go after Michelle Rempel in the same way because I have a relationship with her. Everything's relationships, and when you think of changing things in some way, does that enter the conversation?
Well, listen. I mean, the example with Jagmeet is an interesting one, because we created Saka together.
Yeah.
Because he just had a baby, and we just come through a brutal, grueling election where the NDP went around saying that we've done nothing as a government, right? I mean, you can say we've not done enough.
I'm running against the NDP.
Saying we didn't do anything was a really cynical ploy that undermines any faith that progressives have. And we elected this progressive government.
It was easy to run against, but
it was. But it hurt us. And I said, you know what? Jagmeet, we got to get past this. We got to. And I sat down with him and I actually developed a really good working relationship with him. And we'd have great conversations about a whole bunch of things. And we'd get into policy and we'd get and I'd meet with him and talk with him in person or on the phone every few months for the entire duration of SACA.
Okay.
And then when he decided to end SACA, he didn't even call me. Right. There was so the relationship obviously wasn't what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Where I know that if I had chosen to end it, it would have started with a call to him where I would have said, you know what, Jagmeet, it's not going to work. You make those tough calls. I don't know why he didn't reach out to call me because I know what he cares about. I know the things that matter to him. I know he is genuine in wanting to see this country move forward in more progressive ways. For him to do that way, it bugged me, and it bugged me because I know these things matter to him, but having politics sort of kick in and him having to deal with pressures from his caucus or his base or whatever,
and the by-election,
and flip that, and the by-election, and all those things just sort of emphasize for me, okay, I wouldn't do that. And I still believe, and there's no hard feelings on it, and we'll be engaging in that. So listen, I know that Jagmeet really cares about the environment. I also know he doesn't know what to do about the environment. And I'm happy to say that and argue with that, but I'm like, I know what we can do about the environment. I'm demonstrating how to reduce emissions and grow the economy and put money back in people's pockets. So come on board. And for him to say, oh, maybe we're not in favor of carbon pricing, it's like, oh, come on, really? This is why you wanted to step out of SACA, because you're going to try and cozy up with Polyev or get away from the difficult conversation about how we continue to fight climate change. I mean, hard things are hard sometimes. And it just sort of disappointed me that he didn't pick up the phone and say, okay, this is time.